So welcome everybody to Projections.live, our virtual events. It's been a wild ride these last few years. We've been through a lot of different venues along the way. I'm sure that those of you guys in the audience have been with us for a lot of those too. And now we're at a whole new venue, a virtual venue, as most of the world is. So Frank, how you doing with this?
Good, we're all good. I want to thank everybody for coming. You should let everybody know, without Cliff, this presentation does not happen. He is the man behind the curtain tonight. He's running the whole show. So I thank him, Susan and Lawrence and Mikhail for helping out during the week. They did, stepping in and doing a lot of testing with us. So we're really very, very thankful to them. We've got a big crowd. We've got people from Germany and Amsterdam and Italy and France, Canada, Brooklyn. I mean, everybody's here. I need to always thank our sponsors, which is Epson, Dano over there, the entire team over at Photo Shelter. It's always a big help for us. Pro Photo Daily with David Schernauer, Jeff Roberts at American Photography, the folks over at B&H Camera, they're always very supportive. I noticed that Claudia from Archive Magazine has jumped on, so we're happy about that. So we're in a different time now with this virus, and this whole projections really started out of my wife's idea about bringing community together, and nothing could be more important now than all of us being together. And I just want to say, a lot of people are going through this by themselves, and I think we all need to recognize that some of us need help, and some of us would like some help. So if you know somebody who's alone, send them a text, send them a call, do something to just reach out so that everyone's really, in a good spot. The way we proceed tonight is, for the folks who are just joining us for the first time, is that we have a speaker. They speak for about 20, 25 minutes. Then we have a little short break, and then the next person. So it's very much a very comfortable sort of setting, very easy. I'll be asking questions. Cliff will be asking questions. The thing that's crucial for us is that we'd love your feedback. We'd love questions, suggestions. How can we make it better? Everyone has my email, which is frank@thephotocloser.com. So please send all of that information our way. If there's anyone that would like to present, we love having people presenting. So we're always looking for people, and anyone that wants to present gets to present. It's very much about our community. And with your suggestions, be creative and be critical. And if there's something that's really bugging you, send those to Cliff directly. I don't need to get those, right? That would be perfect for Cliff. So we have three presenters tonight. We have Claudia Paul, Alec Vianu, and we start off tonight with Charles Chessler. Charles, it's all yours, buddy.
Cool. Thank you. Where am I? I'm not. Is my video? Oh, there we go. Start my video. Cool. Voila. So first of all, thank you guys for having me. It's really a treat to be here and to talk about the work. And as you know, I joke around a lot. I don't take myself seriously, but I take the work seriously. And I'm just going to give a little background. I want to give a shout out to Debbie Gilbert, who's with us tonight. 3.5, 4 weeks ago, I had no idea what Zoom was. And she asked me to give a presentation to her portfolio development group. I'm a little bit of a technophobe sometimes. And she said, no, do it. It'll be easy. And so I decided to give it a go and embrace it. And the presentation I did with her went really, really well. And I was having a chat with a friend of mine to practice. So I'm going to just share my screen if you give me a second. And there it is. And share this brave new world. Let's start there. And let's go. There you are, Photo Closer. So basically, I realized while I was talking to my friend Jennifer that it was a great way to connect, and that I was looking, I'm going to go back, for connection at this time, and looking for purpose and a way to get myself out of bed in the morning. because pretty much the first week of this, like a lot of people, I was in bed and I was eating a pint of ice cream a day and gaining weight and didn't know how to react and respond. So while we were talking, we were having this conversation, I said, would you take a screenshot of me and let me take one of you? And I kind of thought it was cool. And this was the grab I got of her. And we talked about how we were feeling. And she said she was feeling determined, which I thought was, very, very cool and strong. And I realized that I was feeling uncertain, but I liked what I was seeing on the screen. And I wanted to keep working. We're all looking for a way to be purposeful and to work and to connect. And at that moment, I realized that the best camera that I currently have is the print screen key on my keyboard. And I first thought, oh, this is really stupid and crazy. And then I was like, no, let me see if I can connect with folks. So I've been going nonstop since March 27th. And basically, I'm making appointments with people. We're chatting on Zoom. I'm trying to take the emotional temperature of folks and have a meaningful interaction. And it's been very, very cool. And it doesn't matter. It's not about the image quality. Some people have old laptops. Some people have an iPhone. I wanted at the beginning to control light and all that. And I was like, let me do the best I can and jump in. And as I was talking to people, we would chat for 10 to 15 minutes, and I would ask them to think about some words about how they were really feeling. So I'm just going to share some of the images and give people a chance to read some of what they said. And I wasn't not too concerned about matching because there's just a range of emotion that people are feeling, which I think is palpable. And it's helping me cope. And it's also, people are telling me that they found that it was meaningful. And a few people said, I haven't really, not that they've been in denial, but I haven't really thought about how I was feeling. So it's kind of turned into this wonderful thing, this wonderful opportunity. And again, you can see the light. Everybody's got different light going on. Sometimes the light was awful. I'm using, definitely using Lightroom tools to adjust things where the light was not so great. But I'm also found that giving up control was very, very helpful for me, and embracing the imperfections of what's going on.
Charles.
So, and I couldn't, as you can see, I couldn't always control decent light. So processing in this way helped me kind of deal with that.
So Charles, at what point did you realize that this was something special, that you really wanted to continue it? Like, how does that work for you in the process?
It's interesting. So thanks for that question, Frank. I'm somebody, when I start something, I put the blinders on and I go all in. And it took pretty much 3 days. It was a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then I started putting out on Facebook that I was taking appointments, and I got a lot of response. And I have not looked back. It just felt so right. And I feel very purposeful, very connected with people. And not to, like I said, I don't take myself seriously, but the work. And to be honest, I feel like because of the time and the connection that this may be the most important thing I ever do as a photographer. So I just went whole hog with it, and I haven't stopped. And I plan to continue for as long as it goes. I worked through the first 2 weekends, and then I realized I needed to give it some structure. So I pulled back to like a Sunday to Thursday, 3 appointments a day in the middle of the day, so that I can getting some other stuff doing, teaching on Zoom, which I'm finding very, very satisfying. But the connection, really, there are days that I wake up and I'm definitely sad. Like, I feel good and I feel sad, and having these appointments, like going to work, gets me up into the shower. And by the time I've done my first appointment, I've had a chat with somebody. And again, it's what people that I don't know, friends of friends on Facebook, old friends, and people that I've been friends on Facebook for a long time, and having a chance to really chat has been fantastic. The bottom right here, she's in attendance, is April Anderson, and she's a wonderful filmmaker. And at the end, by the way, guys, if I hit 15 minutes, cut me off, because I'm going to show, she's doing a series called Viral Life about how creatives are pivoting and working. And I was honored she asked me to be the first subject. So I'm going to show that because I think she captured things really well and gave it a beautiful form. So I just have not too many more of these. Sometimes, like you see on the upper right, tonight's managed to get a little almost Rembrandt lighting, which is fun. But I'm embracing where people are and gave up trying to control too much.
Yeah, and Charles,
definitely make adjustments.
Do you see? Is there any correlation to the people who are alone and couples? I mean, did you feel something immediately different between those folks?
I felt definitely, that's also, it's a great question. There was a sense, and here's, everybody knows Gene Mealy and his wife, Carol, and the couples definitely did not have that loneliness thing happening. There's a lot of talk about how everybody is missing human touch, and I think it's very, very real. On a personal note, a lot of people here know my mother. I posted about her for 3 years. She was in a nursing home, and I'm glad she's not around for this, because if she had not been able to be in contact with my brother and me, she would have gone out of her mind. So the couples definitely have that joy of the touch. I live with my brother for the last 3 years. We get along really great. We're in our childhood apartment with its rent control from 1960. And so it's nice to have the interaction. Of course, it's not that kind of human touch. And we've been social distancing for over 50 years, so we got that down. But it is nice to have another presence in the house. And I definitely feel people who are alone are having a tougher go of it, even those who are happy to be alone, because this is dragging on. And I think part of the fear or the difficulty is we don't know how long it's going to be. You know, and my understanding is it's going to be 18 months till we get some kind of a vaccine, and we're going to go through ups and downs with this, and they don't know how it, you know, can subside and what's going to happen with that. So this is, we're getting to the end. So there's Travis. So, you know, it's nice because Travis has a great studio, had this great, some LED lights, allowed me to play with his image. My friend Leslie on the left out in the West Coast, who's hysterical, had beautiful window light. I'll tell you, technically, I'm using a radial filter and I'm getting the exposure for the face and darkening a bit around. For those of you who know and love Sam Abel like I do in microcomposition, I only wish I put a little negative space between her feet and her hair. But I'm pretty pleased with what I'm getting in 15 minutes and trying to talk to people and dealing with working over the internet like this. So yeah. So that's actually it, pretty quick on that. I would love to get as many eyes on this. I would love to get bigger media outlet seeing this. So, you know, if folks want to check me out, Faces of Zoom, both on Instagram and on Facebook, that would be great. And if anybody wants to participate, I'm always looking for people and around the world. Please send me a message. If you can do a Facebook message, it's easier, a little easier, although I've got the Instagram on Facebook. That would be wonderful. So I'm going to get out of this right now, and
Charles.
Yeah.
When do you think it ends? Like, do you have that when you're in a project like this?
Yeah.
Is there a place where, all right, now it's enough, or when you get there, you know?
I have no idea. I very much, I'm fortunate, Frank, because I have an ability to live sort of in the moment, not being complacent or not paying attention to the future. But I'm in the moment with this, and I'm not thinking at all about 2 more weeks, 6 months, a year. I am vibrating creatively so high on this that I could just keep doing this. And even as we get out in the world, I feel like it will be a way for me to do portraits of this sort with people around the world. And it may be just a whole new thing for me. So I don't even think in terms of an end date. I am 1,000% in it, and it's really, it's inspiring me in a big way.
And do you think to, as an idea,
yeah,
go back to everybody after the quarantine is over?
Yes, a few people have said that, and I would absolutely be happy to do it. Or if we're quarantined and it's like 3 months or again in 6 months, or people are to get checked back in via Zoom like this, and maybe in the future when we can all go out, we'll do a whole we'll get a whole bunch of people down at Bethesda Terrace, and I'll get a group shot, think of all of that stuff.
Great.
But for right now, it's literally I'm dealing with the moment and also trying to adjust for myself and create work and all like everybody else is doing. So
you have a video for us now, right?
I do, yeah. Let me bring it up. Let me share the screen again, and that would be there. And this is from April, and I'm so grateful. To be honest, I've never felt like I've been witnessed as a creative like this. So here it goes. See, there we go. This is April's work, by the way, beginning.
Charles, you can hit the full screen icon on the bottom right-hand corner of the video too.
On the corner. Yep, cool. Where is it? Theater
mode. To the right, to the right, to the right. There we go.
Connecting with people in this crazy, crazy time and embracing the idea. Oh. Yeah. And if your best camera is the one you have with you right now, that camera is a print screen button on my keyboard and connecting people through Zoom like this. So obviously, with my background of always being interested in photographing people, whether it's Agreeable Strangers, the Body Positive Project, most of my work, doing headshots, corporate, and all that kind of stuff. So the first week or so of this, so I am a personality, April. It would be
no, really?
No, I have a personality that I could very easily slip into sleeping and eating a pint of ice cream every day. And the first week, that's what I did, because the sense of the unknown and embracing and accepting what's not in our control, but then not just giving over to that, not being complacent about it. And I was having a chat with a friend on Zoom, and while we were talking, I said, can I take a snap of you and will you do one of me? And first I said, oh, this is stupid. And then I said, no, it's not stupid. It's not about the image quality. It's about, I felt the need to document the moment. And that need has led to giving me a sense of purpose that is getting me out of bed in the morning. And helping me learn a skill that is with Zoom that will probably prove to be very practical. It is going to be an entirely new world. It's either adapt or don't. And this idea of, I say this thing, suffering is fighting what is. I also think we need to feel the feelings, but you can then choose to drown in them. And this is not a judgment on people who can't feel. My heart breaks for them. It is not in their control. And I am an optimistic realist. And what happened after about 8 days was I woke up with a little bit of okay, I need to do a little something. This project, I'm busier than I've been now. I'm booked for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to be working, whether it's paid or not, it doesn't matter. To me right now, it's a matter of it's all about having the purpose and being able to contribute. So I was in Italy and got back February 12th, literally having the feeling that, oh my God, this is my time in one way. I was supposed to go in June. Obviously not happening. I don't know, like you, I do this work with this wildlife conservation nonprofit.
Yes.
We have a trip scheduled for August. I'm highly doubtful that it will happen, but gosh, it would be great if it could. But I also don't want to be, smart, stupid, my mother used to say. And it's like a year from August that we bring the next group over there and whatever. So it's literally a day at a time and keeping an eye. I'm taking nothing for granted. And at least I will feel like I have this purpose and something to do wherever that will lead and however much time I'm given. And again, not to be, oh my God, blah, 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 because I am like you, I feel hopeful, but also realistic. And I'm so connected doing this. I'm flourishing. It's incredible. And tomorrow that may change, but I'm flourishing. Out of there. All right, I'm going to stop the screen share. I just, oopsie, sorry. All right, and I am back. Just can I add one little note?
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah, so the thing about, I was in Rome and working with this wildlife conservation nonprofit, and my problems are first world problems, but this, I just started making my full-time living as a photographer about 2 years ago. And so just adapting with the times, this was going to be a big year for me. I had 2 trips back to Rome scheduled with work and also working with the wildlife conservation nonprofit. But there's a part of me that's like, things must happen for a reason. And so in terms of that also, this has given me this sense of purpose that I'm doing something that I'm passionate about and keeping me hopeful for this stuff happening in the future. So.
Well, I mean, certainly doing a project like this, opens up so many other areas for you to go. I mean, this direction and that direction. Can you imagine what it's going to take to get this to the next level? I mean, where can you see yourself promoting this? Where can this help you commercially? Are you thinking in that way at all?
Well, I'm not smart about the bigger, I'm not a big commercial photographer. And so I will tell you, I would love to see this get bigger, and I would accept any suggestions or advice from anybody, because I have no idea how to do that. I know how to do the work and to be passionate about it. And I would love to get it to a wider audience. So, yeah.
So, I mean, do you think about a book, a gallery, digital space?
I don't think so. That it's on Instagram and all that kind of stuff. I think if a publisher were to notice, I don't want to self-publish. I would be very excited and happy if a book came out of it. I'm not as much somebody who, if somebody said, yeah, we want to do a gallery show, that would okay. I don't pursue that kind of thing a lot because I do a lot of headshots and portraits and corporate stuff, but also this work with some organizations both here and the one in South Africa. But my biggest joy would probably be a book and some larger media visibility in a major, like the New York Times or CNN or something like that. I have no idea how to make that happen though. That's my truth.
Like I say, at so many of these projections, you need a rep.
Well, hi, Frank.
Everybody needs a rep.
Okay. I'll be messaging you. Let's talk. Guide me.
But that was really great. Very inspirational. Yeah, Cliff.
Charles, Tracy Brown had asked, do you direct the subjects much? Do you give them direction beforehand on how to prepare, where to sit, etc.?
Yeah, that's so I suggest some stuff, which is, some indirect window light. Some people are in a room though, and it's their monitor light. I will adjust as much as possible. So some people are fine close up. I've been embracing a little more environmental stuff, and I'll have people at a bit of an angle and looking for side light, which worked out, the shot of you guys, Clifford was great. So I'm doing some directing in the moment, but I'm not over directing. And I am talking to people in a certain way to get them tapped in, and I'm not going to divulge that secret.
Are most of these people living in the city?
These folks are all over. Actually, I've got, there was, so one from New Zealand, Italy. I've got Australia tomorrow night, actually, at night. And so I'm looking to meet.
No, but I mean, like, were they living in small apartments?
No, some small and some not. Yeah, some
Okay.
were very and in a room, tight, and like city stuff with not a lot of light and things like that. So I'm using things like the radial filter, and I'm making adjustments, and I'm brightening up for, say, their face, and then darkening around, like setting the exposure initially when there wasn't enough light. Here's another challenge, because the webcams are I can't control anything there, right? So I have to adjust. I do adjust them as much as possible for the existing light, whatever their situation is. I do that, and then I work it from there. And some takes a little bit of manipulation. So,
Charles, have you considered having them be on a laptop versus a desktop, so you have flexibility, or maybe using their phone, so you can say, "Hey, go to that window, go into your kitchen, open up the refrigerator."
That's a great. That's great. Stick your head in the refrigerator.
It's a natural softbox. Yeah, there's great light. Try it.
So I do. So for a lot of people are using their phones. One thing about the phone, I haven't, maybe somebody else knows, is I'm really like horizontally in this kind of 16:9 zoom ratio. And on a phone, you can't really get that. So I'm not, so yeah. And if people have a laptop, we have more flexibility. But I also am enjoying the challenge of somebody's like, no, here I'm at my desktop. This is what we got to do. Maybe moving a lamp a little bit, or if there's enough monitor brightness and engaging all of that. But, excuse me, I'm really, I'm not trying to control a lot. I'm trying to be in the moment with folks and worry a little bit, pay attention, but not worry so much about the light. Whereas like today with Claudia, we did, you know, the light, it was everything, lighting her the right way in the background and the ambient and stuff like that. And in that way, it's fun. And every shoot, every engagement is different in that way.
Cool. Great job. Excellent presentation. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much for having me. I know I joke a lot, but I'm really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so everybody, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break, and we have Alec Vianu on deck. Thanks, Charles.
Thank you. And let me say, oh, how lovely these, thank you guys on the chats. Thank you, everybody. New world. Oh, that was to Susan. I need to go to everybody. Cool.
So everyone should know who's on there while we take this break that May 6th is our next virtual projections, and we have lined up so far Travis Keys, who is the chairman of the board of the New York chapter of APA. So we're thrilled to have him, and we'll have other people coming on as well. And like I say, if you'd like to join, you know, and you'd like to present, just send me an email. It's frank@thephotocloser.com. Again, we welcome your feedback and suggestions and on and on and on. So please feel free to give us your opinion on everything.
Yeah, and guys, if you have any questions, we want to keep this flowing a little bit, but any questions you have about the images, questions for the presenters, feel free to ask that in the chat. We'll be monitoring it. And we will try not to interrupt them too much while they're presenting unless there's something really pertinent, but certainly afterwards we'll keep track of all the questions. But if there's a burning question, send it during the presentation and we'll see if we can let them know and keep it relevant as well. So it looks like we have Alec here.
Yes, we do.
Alec,
can you hear me?
how you doing? We can hear you.
Alec.
I'm good. Very glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So give us a background.
Well, background is like photography has always been something that I've always loved, and I have done it intermittently through my life. I have photographed, I've art directed, I've designed shots, I've done everything related to kind of like the visual aspect of it. And at some point, I decided to actually get a lot deeper myself into actually really doing it. And so that happened a whole number of years ago, and I've done all kind of things. And through most of it, I've always loved to be able to kind of capture people, capture moments, and really discover kind of like the invisible things that we don't see, that we see so often that they become invisible to us. And I've always liked either like to go almost like in the extreme towards shooting just people, and some other times just like little corners, little parts that we don't see. So this is kind of like part of my my background. I'm glad to be here, and definitely, like, you know, one of the things that happens now with Corona is that it's something that is so huge, and it's like it's affecting the entire world. And I wanted to be able to do something that documents it. I didn't want it to be forgotten. I didn't want it to be to pass on, and all of a sudden when the vaccine is back, everybody forgets what this period was like, which kind of led me to wanting to document the kind of like the city through it all. And that's kind of what started this whole thing. So I don't know, anything else, any questions before I start?
Oh,
No, let's jump right into it.
Okay.
You know how to share your screen?
I think I do. One moment. One moment.
Just to chime in for a second, everyone's saying clap right now while we're doing this. 7 p.m. Oh, there we go.
All right. It's all working?
you're on.
Okay.
Good.
So needless to say, when everything started, I wanted to kind of to make sure that I start to kind of almost methodically go around it. And I wanted to see the places that we never see alone. We don't see unpopulated. It's like it's a rarity to be able to kind of like see them empty. And that's one of the premise of the whole thing. As it is like I wanted to kind of like, the theme that I wanted to give myself is that the city that never stops is closed for business, and everybody stays at home. All the businesses are closed. The cars are parked. The people are hiding, and then what's left is the emptiness of the city. So it's like I love to be able to kind of like capture the spirit of the people in the city, and to capture what the city's personality is. And one of the things that happened when I moved to New York, what is it now? It's like already quite a while ago. I became so excited about being able to see the city, and it gave me a huge energy to be able to kind of document it all and photograph, and then kind of capture every little details and everything. And in this case, it's like I wanted to kind of see the type of people that are in New York, from the people that say fuck off and like don't look at me, don't point the camera, to just subways, and they're packed, and to just walking on the street and be able to kind of like capture an unsuspecting person that kind of like is out there just smoking and staring at you like, what are you going to do with a camera? And then lift it up and take a picture, and then they're all surprised. Or in a subway, a perfect moment. Of course, the passing subways are always such a great thing, because eventually people love to look at someone that is out there with a camera. Obviously, this is not from this period now. And this kind of brings more like, you know, the personality of like what happens in the social distancing. It's like, you know, the quiet nights, the places where you don't see people together, on both people on both sides of the street. And then, needless to say, from normal people to regular street people to just like serious people, and like, you know, where you capture like something that is like, you have a whole story in someone's eyes. And so this is kind of like where it is. It's like COVID-19, otherwise it's C-19. So this is kind of like, I captured everything with that. And I wanted to start, you know, like this, kind of trying to capture like this perfect symmetry of streets in complete emptiness. And I thought, in some cases I photographed in color, in some cases I photographed it purely in black and white. And I opted to kind of continue in black and white, even though I shot in color as well, because it seemed that it matches very much like the story that I had. And this is where I landed with this kind of, with this documentation. So one thing that I wanted to do, like in keeping this, because it's a very emotional time, and I wanted to be able to keep my emotion out of a subject that is like so highly emotional, and document it in a very kind of like organized fashion. And as you can tell, I took like various areas in town, and I start to go there, and I live in Brooklyn, and I would cross the bridge with my bicycle, and then simply like go every day a different area, every day a different bridge, a different return, a different way to go, and try to take photographs. And sometimes I was able to get one great shot, and sometimes none. But it's kind of persistence and being able to get what I wanted for this. So basically, the city that never sleeps is asleep. And in some cases, like, you never see something like the street empty.
So,
and it's
Alec,
like, yes.
can you tell us what time of day this is?
Yeah, this was probably about 9 a.m.
During the week?
During the week, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what does that do to you emotionally? You've walked on that street 1,000 times, packed, 20 people waiting for the light to change. What does that make you feel when you're standing there and you're here and this is what you see?
Well, I have to tell you is that, you know, as amazing of an experience as a photographer to kind of like document a city such as New York empty, and to think like, oh my God, if I could always have someone pass and then have like this little space empty. Now all of it's empty. And so there's like this huge thrill to be able to photograph that, but that comes together with a lot of sadness, because like, it's not that there's kind of like everybody is on a siesta. It's like everybody's hiding. This is a lot of people that have been hurt and died, and there's panic, and it's a weird combination of the thrill of photographing it and what actually that means.
So can you put into context? I mean, when you see this, you recognize that the city is really nothing without its people.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's like the city feels lonely. It feels empty. It feels like the void. And yeah, the people give it so much, all the personalities, the cars, like it's almost like all of these photographs have to be seen with a soundtrack, and the soundtrack of silence, or like a distant ambulance passing by somewhere, but it's quiet. It's really quiet. It's like it's really so different.
So as you say that, the sound of the ambulance in the background, can you or do you start, as a creative director, start to see this as a video, as a bigger presentation, to really give you that other piece of impact of what it feels like, that waning sound of the ambulance?
Oh, absolutely. It's like if this would have been, for example, a presentation, like a physical presentation, where you have like this huge screen, I would have speakers that actually have the soundtracks. And then with each one, it would slightly, there's almost like a hum of still, like, you know, subways passing because they don't stop. But everything seems very distant. It's like that you don't have the immediacy of like this blaring fire truck that passes right by, or like this trucks and honkings, and it's just like quiet. So it's like the soundtrack is loudly quiet in an odd way. Like this photograph, for example, this was north of Soho. It was a street that usually it's packed and it's full of people, and in this case it's so clear. It's like, you know, this social distancing. Like this guy, kind of a funny story, because I saw him and I rode my bike behind him, and by the time I would actually stop and prep the camera, he would be far away, and I'd have to get back on the bike and then go after him again. So there was like a lot of like catch up, you know, with him, but he was so distant, and I was able to catch this moment with him.
But only being lucky that he stayed in the middle of the street.
Absolutely, yeah. He walked straight in the middle.
Go.
This is another area, is like where it's such a beautiful area, and it's like you see so much more, almost like through the emptiness, you see the structures of all the buildings, the perspective that kind of builds the whole thing. And there's so much beauty in the emptiness.
How did you get those two old cars there? Alec, how did you get the two old cars there? My God.
It's pure luck.
Man.
It's pure luck, yes.
A good car guy is going to go onto the chat room and tell us what both of those cars are.
Yeah, it's like, because at first I was walking from like a side street. I'm like, oh, wow, look at those beautiful cars parked right in front of the Apple store. And so I start to kind of go around them and like see what's the best angle that I want to be able to get. And this was good, because I was be able to see this the street in front and on the sides.
Beautiful.
And like the rules on the bridge, on a bridge that is populated with maybe, I don't know, 800 people at any given time. It's like the emptiness of the bridge, where you could actually go on the left, you could go on the right. There's simply no one on it.
Alec, did you run into other photographers while you were doing this?
I ran into one other photographer, which I was very surprised to run into only one. And he was, I didn't get his name, but he was actually shooting on, you know, with a 4x5, and he was pointing towards an alley. And we talked for a little bit about how it is to photograph this. And, you know, for him, it was also like an ideal moment, because he was able to actually bring his large format camera and get all this like details that otherwise he couldn't. So it was like a kind of an exciting a moment for him. Like on this one is like also the pure peacefulness of like an amazing sky, almost no cars passing on the road, on the ramp, everything parked, no people. You just hear the birds, like a very ethereal kind of an atmosphere.
And Alec,
Yeah.
when you blocked out with your maps, I'm going to this area, and this area. How does that make, how is your work experience more? Do you find yourself more productive doing that, or what's the motivation and what's the end game to have it so organized?
Well, the basically is like I wanted to be able to document everything, but I didn't have a lot of time because I still had to go back home, for different meetings and stuff. And so I would give myself like about 2 hours in the morning where I would actually go and photograph and be able to make progress. I needed to not simply like, I'm going to turn on this street or that street. And it was actually really, really great. It helped. I didn't always stick to it, and obviously to be able to get to any one area, I have to pass through other areas, but it does help to have like an area to go to. This is photographed, for example, from Manhattan Bridge, almost at the end of it. It was such a great perspective of Chinatown.
That's amazing.
This is Tribeca, and you could see all the way uptown. Is like it's a really great look to it. And moving all the way to the right, a look on the bicycle lane on Manhattan Bridge.
Alec, when you took that shot of Chinatown,
yeah,
I mean, that first thing that comes to my mind, just imagining what it's like for those folks living in those buildings during this time.
Absolutely. And the thing is that, what I don't have here is that most of the stores there are all completely closed. They're shut down. They're like, they have like, the shutters are completely down. They're locked. They're everything. And it must be even worse because in a lot of places, the stores still have windows and you can look inside. But in Chinatown, a lot of them have, just completely like closed it.
Yeah.
This was a very fun area that this was in Red Hook, and it was kind of a really fun area, like all the way at the very tip of it. And I was like just wandering through this one alley, and I saw this little enclave, and it was like this Cadillac limo, and there was music coming from inside. And it was such a perfect view. It's almost like such an amazing combination of elements. You have the city, you have the limo, someone waiting in there having fun, and the bridge far away, the statue far away. Perfect from Sopranos.
Yeah.
This one I actually took this morning. This was kind of an interesting one because it's someone that works in a hospital. It's like, from the green pants that they were like he was wearing, and he was wearing like a plastic. It looked almost like I don't know what it was, but it looked like a protective thing. It was such an interesting dress. Again, emptiness takes different shapes, because like in this, the wall simply didn't change. They didn't get any new posters being posted. It was all like pulling down. And this was simply like a pub that's closed for business. And I couldn't tell from the outside what it was. And I walked to the window and looked inside. And it was such a beautiful kind of composition.
So Alex, with your background as a creative director, a designer, when you look through the lens, what do you see first? Do you see your eye as a designer, an art director, photographer?
I don't think there is a priority anymore. I think it's a really interesting mix, because I see something that interests me as a topic. I compose it as a photographer, but also with the kind of the creative director or designer, thing in it. It simply is like the ingredients are all mixed up, and then they create this these things. I don't think that it's easy to describe as to what causes this, but it's like it's an eye shaped, from years and years of doing it.
Okay.
A classic one, which is like, again, like in the Red Hook area, there are so many warehouses that are just locked and closed, and it was just interesting.
Yeah, how did you find the building without graffiti? My God.
I know, it's like it must have been painted recently, because it was so clean.
Impossible. Yeah.
And I love the perspective and the emptiness of the street kind of going all the way to the end. No cars. Needless to say, actually, my whole thing started by photographing her, the fearless girl. And I thought she was actually placed somewhere else downtown. And I was actually very surprised to run into her there. I wanted to I make her bigger than life in her in this picture, because she means much and symbolizes so much, and almost like in this case, it's like it's still like standing up. Of like seeing through the arch. Needless to say, I didn't take subways often. But I wanted to kind of document like kind of the emptiness of the subways right now. And there was just like a person alone sitting on a bench. And it was such a perfect framing of it. On this one, the story kind of like tells, it's written by the photograph, because it's almost like under quarantine, and then you have the chain and you see through it, it's all under lock. And this is the end of my presentation.
That's great.
And yes, I wanted to write there, like, I couldn't have done this without my bike and my cameras, obviously.
So do you think of so where do you think you go with this imagery? Do you think of selling prints, fine art prints? I mean, because some of them would be just perfect for that.
Oh, definitely is like I I think that if I find like a right way, I think probably a lot of people are going to want to make books, from it. So I'm not sure if that's the route that I would actually want to take. But I think a gallery would be quite awesome to be able to get to have some like a show or two with that. These photographs they're super high res, and they would make amazing like extra large prints of that.
So is that something you go to the city of New York, like with an idea, with a dummy, maybe a blur book? This is what it could look like. What do you do?
Well, there's a number of things that can be done. One is you could design a book and design it really like the most amazing thing, and take it to some museums, take it to some galleries. Definitely, I think the editors in Europe may be more interested because they're far away, and they're definitely more interested in New York than people in New York, obviously. And but I think that the big thing would be not so much a book, but I think just make like kind of like fine art prints. I think that's something that I would love to be able to do.
Great. Well, that was really phenomenal work, Alec. Phenomenal.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you.
Inspiring. Very, very inspiring.
Seriously, I'm very thankful that you guys had me for this one. And
well, we're looking forward to the next edition of this. So the door is always open. The invitation is always there.
Thank you.
Alex, someone had asked, did you put a face mask on the Fearless Girl, or did someone else do that?
No, actually, it's like this morning, I was surprised to actually find her with a face mask on. And that's why I put it on the cover. I put her on the cover of the presentation.
Interesting.
So it was there.
That is pretty crazy. If anyone else has any questions, fire them away now. Or forever hold your peace. And then we'll do another few-minute break, and we'll set up for Claudia Paul.
Great.
Alec, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Alec.
All right, we take a quick break. We'll be right back. I'm just going to grab a water.
You saw it?
I did.
Oh, you did?
I followed along.
It's funny. I'm like reading now people's comments.
Yeah. People like the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're reading this?
Yes.
That's very cool.
For me, it shows alongside your image.
Wow. Nice.
I know, Kaylee.
Really?
Yeah,
I knew that Judy did.
she was like, "Are you watching this?"
You ready, Chloe?
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Hi, everybody. I can't hear Cliff anymore.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All
Are we
right.
still taking a break or?
No, I think we're good. If anyone has any questions, feel free to shout them out. We're monitoring them in the chat room, and if something's really pertinent, we'll stop you. If not, we'll wait to the end of the presentation. But take it away, Claudia.
Okay, I'm gonna actually pull up my first slide while I'm talking. Hold on, sharing the screen, and here we go. Okay. All right. So first of all, wanted to just say this is fun to do this virtually. I was invited to projections once before we did it in the real world, and and this is very different because, you know, we're all on our computers, and it's kind of, in a way, I mean, it's nice because some people can participate that could never come to the actual New York event. On the other hand, it's kind of sad not to see everybody's faces, but I'm excited to share some work. And initially, I talked to Frank and Cliff about presenting my couples project, which has been going on before this whole thing started. And then it kind of took a little turn because I started actually working with Mount Sinai Hospital. And after a little bit of discussion, we figured that both of the projects are very timely and that it would be a good thing to show both. And I feel that it's a good mix. And so I'm going to start with the Mount Sinai work. And the way this whole thing started is that they've been a client of mine for a couple of years now, and I usually do more commercial work with them, a lot of portraiture, you know, for their marketing and website, anything they really need as far as people. But about a week into our lockdown, I got a call from them, and, you know, like so many of my friends, at that point I was basically at home. My whole calendar was cleared. All of my jobs were canceled, and I was kind of trying to figure out how to deal with this new situation. And Mount Sinai called me, and they asked me if I would be comfortable coming to the hospital and documenting their efforts. And so this was kind of early on in the process when, you know, things had just started, and they basically were asked to build a lot of extra space and a lot of extra beds, expecting that, you know, there's going to be a big need. So this is kind of what started in the, a lot of people noticed this is the main atrium of the Mount Sinai Hospital uptown, and they started building these structures that looked like this in the beginning, and I'm gonna just kind of keep going. And all the extra beds that they were purchasing and getting, they, you know, they needed to find spaces to put them. So this is normally actually the students' library, and now it is temporary bed storage. And so we kind of just kept roaming around the hospital and looking at all the effort that was being done. The other thing was, a lot of you guys know that also that there was an organization that came to help and support Mount Sinai Hospital, and they built basically a field hospital right in Central Park across the street from the hospital. And this was to help the patient overflow, to also treat COVID patients, and to just kind of manage, you know, all the extra people that are all of a sudden getting submitted to the hospitals.
Yeah, Cloud, can you tell us how many days you shot? How many, you know, how big a content library did you create for them?
So it's basically ongoing. It started very slowly. It started with one day, and we really just took pictures of the exteriors. You know, it was the tents that they were starting to build, and, you know, very safe, because I did feel kind of funny about, do I really want to do this kind of work, and do I really want to go inside of a hospital right now? And then, you know, after that first day, it just kind of snowballed, and they kept calling me back and kept having new requests for different shoots and for, you know, to portray different people. Because what they started doing after a while is they started highlighting specific doctors and nurses or scientists that are working on really important things right now. And so basically, as the requests are coming in, they call me, and we set something up, and I head over there. So these guys, for example, they're at Mount Sinai Morningside, which is up on 114 in Amsterdam. And they are inside of a tent that they also built, which is not functioning as a testing tent, but it's also there to capture overflow of the patients, and basically to keep a safe way of separating regular patients from potential COVID patients. And this one is a actual testing tent that's right outside of the main campus of Mount Sinai. That's on 5th Avenue and about 100th Street. And these guys they let me into the tent when it wasn't open yet. So this was about probably a few hours before they actually opened the tent. So they were getting ready and showing us all the equipment and, you know, the procedures. And I just found it, you know, it was very surreal. The first couple of times I saw things like that, I really felt like I was in some kind of a disaster movie, and I kept kind of waiting to wake up from this whole situation, which is not happening at this point. But it's incredible to see all this work that's being done. It's really
So that coming now,
yes.
coming and
It
just
yeah.
a question. I mean, I'm putting on my rep hat. Did they buy out the content, or
So
and how did that work
yeah,
for you?
it's tricky because I'm not functioning I'm not a photojournalist in that sense. I'm still working for a client. So of course it's very sensitive as far as who we are photographing. So I think to answer the question that I think you're aiming at is, I couldn't just take this image and sell it to a pharmaceutical company.
No, I wasn't thinking that at all.
Okay.
Where I was really going is, if you're shooting all this, right, what are the usage rights? Because you could imagine, from a historic standpoint, these images from Mount Sinai will live forever.
That is true.
And
usually, so I mean, this is really, it's a different situation, because what I usually shoot for them is very different. So, but usually our agreement is they usually get between 1 and 3 years of usage for my images, and then they can extend. So in this case, yes, there's going to be probably a very long-term use. And, you know, there was already talk from the dean of the hospital that he's probably writing a book about this whole situation. So yeah, definitely, this is definitely, I mean, it is historic, and it's and the more I'm doing this, the more I realize how crazy it is that I have access to all these places, and that I get to witness and actually document this stuff.
If there's ever a case that somebody needs a rep, you need a rep.
We know. So this was very recent, because it's kind of, I was trying to keep these images chronological, but then they kind of make more sense in a thematic way. And so this, for example, is a part of a clinic where they right now are doing the antibody testing. So they're taking blood samples from people that have had the disease and that hopefully are showing really high antibody count. And then at some point, that blood plasma can then hopefully be used for really sick patients and help them out. So that is a really, really interesting and very important development. This is one of the employees working in one of the many labs at Mount Sinai. I've seen a lot these days, and I'm not a scientist, so I don't always know exactly what they're doing, but I just kind of loved how, you know, he was showing me the tubes that he was working with, and I just had to grab this angle, and I love the color of his mask. And so it was just, for me, it was very hero type of shot.
And Clau, how do you make sure that you're staying safe?
Good question.
By the way, that's Tracy Brown. That was her question.
Okay. Good question, Tracy. It was actually a little bit, it was making me a little bit nervous in the beginning, because I actually didn't have an N95 mask, for example. I have these wonderful hand sewn masks, and, you know, what everybody else is wearing, but the hospitals, as you guys know, they don't I mean, they hardly have enough PPE for their nurses and doctors. So the last person that they can give stuff to is a photographer. So I was kind of on my own in the beginning, and thankfully I was able to source a few N95 masks, and now I'm wearing them only when I'm going to the hospital. But other than that, it's honestly, it's kind of my own responsibility to make sure that, you know, I don't touch things. I disinfect my gear when I get home. You know, I just have to use common sense, and obviously whoever I'm meeting there, I always ask them about the procedures, and I always ask them, do I have to be worried? Is this an area that's dangerous? You know, what do we do? But I, I am not on any of the floors that have actual COVID patients. That's one thing that they're very, as far as the security is very tight now, so they're not usually letting any media in there. And, you know, and my client that I work with all the time, she actually feels pretty responsible for me, so she doesn't want me close to those areas at all. And that's okay with me, because I don't feel like I'm equipped for that kind of photography. I feel like it's very emotional. It's you know, it's a risk that you have to be willing to take. And I don't think I am quite there personally.
You have to stay within your own comfort level, right? I mean, that's
Exactly. And I mean, I've heard from some photographers that are more conflict photographers. I think those are the kind of people that are used to those situations. They kind of know how to react. They know how to protect themselves, and I think that's it's a whole different genre. And for me, I'm really enjoying this kind of work. I love meeting all the people that are working there, and really showcasing their hard work and their dedication and the way they put themselves at risk, and that makes me feel really good, as far as feeling like I'm contributing in a way that it makes sense, and it's part of history, and it's really highlighting these people that are doing incredible work right now.
yes. So, I mean, you're doing one day at a time. Are you finding you are able or you're not able, and does that make you sad or not? Building any relationships with some of these workers? Like, we have a young woman in town, this young girl, Kelly Hernan, who's working at a local hospital. So we sort of know her. We haven't had a chance to speak to her. But are you building relationships with some of these people?
Short ones. I mean, yeah, no, there's no long-term relationship building really. I mean, I'm spending very little time with each person that I'm meeting, and sometimes, like, for example, this guy in the elevator, I actually got a little bit of his story, which was really touching. And he actually is a technician, and he helps build ventilators, you know, puts them all together, and then they distribute them throughout the hospital. And he just, when we photographed him, he came off of his 15-hour shift or so. I mean, he worked through the whole night. You can see how tired he is, and he was kind of, while we were going to the next location, he was kind of leaning against the wall, and I snapped his picture, and he said, "Oh, why are you taking a picture of me like that?" And I said, "Because it's really telling the story of how hard you guys are working right now, and how tired and exhausted you are." And he really appreciated that, and I think he really understood why I did that. And then, you know, he told me that he's heading home to Queens, and he has a wife and kids, and what he does is he basically has to isolate from them at home. So he gets home, you know, basically strips off his clothes, jumps in the shower, and then he goes to live upstairs from them, and basically tries to protect them like that, because he's worried that otherwise he might get them sick. And that kind of stuff, and those kind of stories are, they definitely stick with you, as in, you know, you're going home and you think about those people, because, you know, to have to go through this kind of work every day, and to see what you see every day, and then you can't share that, and you can't be with your family, and you have to then be alone with all of that. It's really rough.
Do you get a sense that they feel, or they're recognizing that we're looking at them in a heroic way, like a fireman or a policeman?
Absolutely.
And the city is going to do a parade. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's finalized, but they're
I-
going to do write down, the canon of heroes.
Yeah,
for
I
all.
really think that, and I was really, really happy to see that when, when I meet these people, because my first thought is always that I definitely don't want to take too much of their time. I don't want to be in their way because they're doing really important stuff right now. But really, every single person that I met has been so kind and so gracious, and they really want to be seen. And I think there wasn't a single person that wasn't happy that I took their picture. And I think it's the first time really that they're getting recognized, and that and I really appreciate the fact that Mount Sinai is doing that with purpose right now, that they are highlighting their workers and that are giving them a voice, and showing how great they are, because you know that's not an automatic given. Not every company would do that.
We are
And
getting
yeah, so
questions
here,
about, just to interrupt you for a second, about disinfecting your gear. A couple of people had asked, how do you approach that?
I actually I watched I think it was a photo rental place. They did a little tutorial on how, and I think they always disinfect gear, so it's kind of, they don't do that only because it's a pandemic. And so, I mean, it's safe to use rubbing alcohol, and obviously you can't just pour a whole gallon over your gear, but I just bring the stuff home, and I wipe down everything I touched. And also because I'm not shooting every day, I can kind of quarantine a lot of my gear in our hallway and just let it sit there. And I mean, I do what I can and what I know as far as keeping this stuff safe. And I've become really, really good at not touching my face, and and being aware of what I've touched, and when I know basically my hands are now officially dirty and I have to wash them and before I touch anything else. So it's just, you have to kind of just think a little differently than what we used to, but it becomes second nature pretty quickly, I feel. Yeah, so this, I just wanted to talk about this guy for a second. So he's a doctor, and they put up these meditation rooms. I don't know who initiated that, but there were a few rooms like that throughout the hospital, and it's basically giving them a little bit of a quiet zone, and they can jump in there. And what you don't see from my view is that there's a projection on the other sides behind me, basically. And it has like a fireplace or the ocean, and it's usually pretty dark in there, so they can just sit and breathe for a second and collect themselves. And this doctor, for example, I talked to him about it, and he said, oh, this is amazing, I love it here. And he said, I just wish I could stay here for the next 2 hours or so and not have to leave. So it really tells how hard this is for them physically and emotionally. And this nurse was also at Morningside Hospital, and she's very kind, very busy on her floor, but she was interviewed for a podcast that Montana did about her and her work, and because she was one of the nurses that worked on, or I mean, helped and treated the very first COVID-19 patient in New York. So, they wanted to hear her story. And again, like, I just had a few minutes with her, but I got to chat with her a little bit, and I got to ask her to try to make a connection. It was kind of interesting because I'm photographing these people with their masks on, and I'm really not used to not seeing people's faces. And because usually, I have a lot of interaction with people, and it's quite interesting to try to get someone to emotionally connect to the camera while half of their face is covered. But I think I can see it in her eyes that there's a really nice connection. And I had asked her just before I took the photo how she finds the strength to go to work every day. And just before that image, she kind of gestured that, you know, she prays and that she's religious. And I just love what her eyes are saying in this photo. All right, and I think this is the last slide for the Mount Sinai series, and I thought it was a nice one to end on, because this is what you would see, which is usually a beautiful wide open atrium, and it's basically all closed off. There's a lot of security, and you know, as everybody knows right now, there's no visitors allowed, and you know, even staff, everybody is getting checked when they come in. And so it's just interesting to see the transformation of this place that I've seen so many times, just full of people and bustling kind of energy, and now it's very eerie and empty at times because everybody is in the rooms. And yeah. All right, so that closes my Mount Sinai series. Do we have any more questions for that specifically?
People are absolutely loving it, by the way. Wonderful
Really?
work, fantastic, bravo. I love what
Nice.
Rise are saying also. Great work, truly magnificent. People are just,
Beautiful.
they're absolutely
Yeah.
loving it. As a retired nurse, you really show what is happening there. All the three presenters are deeply capturing this experience. People are loving it.
That's awesome. That's really good to hear. All right, so I'll just be mindful of time. So I'll jump into the second project. And
We're good with time. No worries, Claudia.
okay, good. But you know, we kind of discussed we're gonna end on this project because it's a happy project, and you know, we all need a little bit of happiness right now. And so this project I started maybe 6-7 months ago or so, and I just, you know, I usually, I love people, I love hugs, and you know, I'm a big love ball. And I started looking around in my circle of friends and just kind of looking at couples that I felt like had this really wonderful connection, and that you just see how much in love they are, and how their energy is between them. So I said, well, you know, why not try to capture that love? And so I kind of thought about the concept and how I wanted to photograph them. And so I ended up deciding to do this in my studio in Chelsea because I wanted a very specific look, and I wanted it very simple and very cohesive rather than going to their homes and photographing them at their homes. So I was lucky that my friend Vincent, who actually I met through Mount Sinai, he works at Mount Sinai, and we have done some work together. And I kind of recruited him to be part of my first shoot and to kind of be my guinea pig. And these guys were really fun to work with. And so what I did with each couple, I basically give them a very short questionnaire. I just kind of want to know a little bit about them, how long they've been together, and I usually ask them to give me a quote about what love means to them. So they have to finish the sentence, love is ... And what happens during the shoot is that, I mean, half of the time really that we spend together is spent talking. And you know, because if I don't know their story yet, I want to hear their story, and I want to see how they interact with each other. And then, you know, when we feel comfortable, then we start actually taking photos. And these guys, I really like their quote that they gave me. I'm gonna read it. They said, love is loving the one you're with completely, unselfishly, and especially when the going gets rough. And I think that, especially in the time right now, is very telling, because I chatted with Frank a little bit about this before, and I think, you know, this is a big test for people on a relationship level as well, because, you know, a situation like this can either make things better or can make things worse, and it's definitely it's a very interesting time. So when the going gets rough, it was, you know, they didn't have that in mind when they gave me this quote, but I find it very timely right now. So these guys, this is one of my lovely photo sisters. This is Kezi. A lot of you guys know her, and she's an amazing photographer and filmmaker. And it is so much fun to photograph a fellow photographer, even though that can be a little bit intimidating at times, because you know they know what you're doing, and it's always kind of, I feel like the pressure is just a little bit higher when you do that. But it was super fun. We had a great shoot together, and these guys, I feel that they're very different personalities. Those two, Devin and Cassie, but they found a way to perfectly balance each other, and that was really lovely to see. And I do feel like the way I photographed them kind of shows that yin and yang that I see in them. And their quote is, "Love is ballet, an effervescent elixir of grace and rhythm, but it keeps you on your toes." This is Christina and Yasmin, and these guys, they've given me so many photos that I love that it was really, really hard to choose, and I'm still not really decided as far as which one is my favorite. They're you know, they're big goofballs. They don't take themselves too seriously, as you can see, and just love everything about them. And I wanted to give a special shout out to Christina, because she works in healthcare and she's out there every single day, and I just wanted to say thank you for all the hard work that you do every day. Marsha and Neil, they almost don't need any explanation. And we chatted with Neil beforehand. He's in the audience, and Marsha as well. And they're just so lovely as a couple. They've been together for 10 years and they have found each other late in life. But, you know, what a great couple they are. And you know, obviously there's a lot of humor in their lives and in their relationship. And I don't think I have a single serious picture of the two of them, and I don't need to, because, you know, laughter is such a big part of their relationship that it just, I feel it perfectly captures them. And they told me, love is feeling safe and loving life with another person. Most of all, love is feeling like the relationship is easy and carefree. And I think they definitely have that. And it's
Cloud,
wonderful.
all these people, you know them in this whole series? You know them on some level?
The people that I started with, at least I knew one of the two, one of the couple basically. And, you know, I would meet their spouse or girlfriend, boyfriend at the shoot. But a lot of times when I start personal projects, I start with people that I know, because it's just easier and they trust me. And but, you know, I've gotten recommendations for other couples from the ones that I photographed, and I'm definitely, as soon as I can continue this project, I'm happy to meet people that I've never met before. I definitely want to expand the project, but it's just nice to have, you know, have the beginning with people that are in my network, because it's just an easier way, you know, because people know me, and, you know, they know my work, and so it's kind of easy access in the beginning.
Yeah.
And here's Anthony and Yoshiko. They were super sweet. Again, like, I knew only one of them. I knew Yoshiko. I've worked with her in the past. She's an actress. and they were super cute. They when we did the shoot, they were just married. They just did the city hall wedding, and so it was very special for them. And I usually post these photos on social media after a week or so after the shoot, and I kind of assumed that it was public knowledge that they were married, but I guess it wasn't. So my photo um, unwillingly became their marriage announcement. So they were flooded with congratulations and everything after, which made me feel really bad at first, but then they thought it was super funny. And they also told me that they've never had professional photos taken of them together, and that this means the world to them to have those photos. So that made me feel really warm and fuzzy and wonderful. And they said, love is in me, in you, and in us. So this is Aaron and Matthew. These guys, again, I just knew one of them, and they were totally in love when they came to the studio. I mean, it's hard not to see it. And I really loved what a friend of mine said when I posted this photo of them. He said, this is how every man should look at his woman. And I thought that was so beautiful, because you could see how, how he looks at her and how much love there is. And it was just a wonderful statement. And I'm glad that people see what I see when I photograph these.
So do you find shooting couples who are in love very easy to direct, or is it a challenge? Because all these people seem to be so madly in love with each other. It's so nice.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I want to be very sensitive of who each couple is, and the last thing that I want to do is to kind of make them into something they're not. So that's why I talk to them a lot beforehand, and I kind of figure out what their dynamic is, and I actually don't direct them too much. I kind of want to see how they flow together and what they do, and how, how they touch and how they interact, because I want everybody to be different, and I don't want them to be what I want them to be. And it works for the most part. I mean, some couples are a little bit more shy in the beginning, and they kind of ask me what to do. But even they, after a while, they kind of become more comfortable, and then it just starts flowing, and then little moments start happening that I feel like are specific for each couple. And here's Fabiola and Nick, and that's again, like, that's one of those moments that I didn't direct that. It just kind of happened after a while of shooting, and I think it's just, everything about it is just perfect. And these guys, they had a very short and very, not, I mean, their story is that, they met and they fell in love really fast. They got married pretty quickly. They had a beautiful baby girl, and now there's another one on the way, which is such an interesting thing. I mean, right now, to have a baby coming in this crazy time is, it's beautiful in a way, because you can see that the world keeps going, and that, that babies are being born no matter what, and that life goes on. And I just, it's really nice to see that. And their quote was, "Love is ride or die," which is very fitting for those two. And these are my last ones, and they actually were also the last couple that I was able to photograph in the studio before everything got closed down. And these guys are super fun. They run an art gallery in Tribeca. They've been together for 32 years, and obviously very, very stylish people. I mean, I just thought it was perfect what they were wearing. And they shared with me, their quote was actually a quote from Voltaire, which says, "Love is a canvas furnished by nature and embroidered by imagination." And that I thought was very fitting too. And yeah, so you know, it was just a wonderful thing to witness all these couples, and I really hope that I can continue this um, as soon as it is safe again, as soon as I can open my studio again. I've got some people lined up already, which are looking forward to doing this, and I'm taking submissions for sure. I would love to see some people that I've not met before, and you know, I just hope this is bringing people a little bit of joy, and you know, lifting people a little bit up in this kind of depressing time.
No, I think no, the work is it's beautiful. Well, I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. It's
Thank you.
you know, it's refreshing. We need it. You know, we all need that. It's really really important. We don't need that bad light though. But yeah,
Yeah, we definitely need love right now.
it's
I'm gonna try to stop
important.
my
So
screen.
you're going to continue this, and where do you see it ending up, Cla? Or do you have an end goal?
Good question. Hold on. I'm trying to see you guys again. Oh, here again. I'm not sure yet, to be honest. I mean, I think this could be many things. It could be a book. It could be an exhibition. I mean, these would make beautiful prints, I think. I haven't really thought that far ahead yet, because I mean, I've only been able to photograph 12 couples so far, and you know, he knows how to print. He actually made a beautiful triptych, or I think it was even 4 pictures of him and Marsha, and you know, printed that out and hung it on his wall. And so yeah, that's definitely something that I'm happy to do for people, or you know, give them the images they want to print themselves. Yeah.
Great. Well, I got to tell you, we couldn't be happier with this whole group of photographers. We're thrilled that the 3 of you presented. We're thrilled that we had so many people on. Please, you know, make notice on all your social media outlets to let people know. May 6th is our next presentation for everyone, so we're thrilled about that. And again, any kind of feedback, we'd love to hear from everyone. And my email is frank@thephotocloser.com. Cliff, you know, why don't you finish us off? But again, without Cliff, this doesn't happen. He is the man. So thank you to our 3 presenters. Thank you to Cliff. Finish us off, Cliff.
Yeah, I think, thank you, Frank. I think this worked out really well. Thank you, everyone, honestly, for showing up, for engaging in the chat, for asking questions. This is a first of its kind for us, that's for sure. And I think that this is going to be the beginning of a new normal. So as we all get kind of adjusted to this, I think, you know, definitely share this with your friends. Let's build that community out. We're no longer sort of restricted by just being in one spot in New York. Share it with everyone you know. Let's help these artists out, the presenters that are really doing this work, and share it with a larger audience.
True.
That this can go global. So, you know, do them a favor, do us a favor, do yourselves a favor, and let's keep this going. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to either one of us. We're happy to help if there's projects who come along, if there's artists you know, if you're an artist, reach out to us. And I think we keep it along this topic and we keep things relevant. And, you know, we're here to help you guys out and the artists. So feel free to leave us some feedback. We're starting this out and we'd love to hear from you guys and see how we can improve it.
Right. Charles, Alex, Claudia, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Take care, guys.